Hello, dear chefs. Welcome to the second session of today's event that is held in collaboration with Nestle Professionals. My name is Ayla Dunga. I am the event coordinator in World Chefs, and today we want to present for you Table for 10 Billion. A very well thought metaphor, I would say, for what we're trying to emphasize here, meaning everything we choose to put in our tables and the way how we decide to concept our menus really matters. For this matter, we have here today two experts from Nestle Professionals, Ana Tudela, nutrition specialist, and Rohini Alam, global category lead for plant-based. Hello, both, and thank you for putting up this very interesting presentation for us.
Thank you, Ayla.
Hi.
Let me start sharing my screen. Well, first I will just stop the video just to ensure that everything works smoothly. Okay, share and share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, all settled.
Perfect. Hide presenter view. Okay, that's it. So, hi everyone. As I already introduced, we are Anna and Rohini, and together we will take you through the new edition of our iconic magazine, NutriPro. And this time we will talk about how to make your menus more nutritionally balanced and sustainable. So this edition focuses on two of the most challenging issues that humanity is facing today. So on the one hand side, we have how to provide balanced nutrition for a world population that continues to grow. And secondly, we have how to feed all those people in a way that's sustainable for the planetary health. So for the next 30 minutes, Rohini and myself, we will take you through the content of the magazine. And at the end of the session, we will finalize with a Q&A session all together. So don't hesitate to type your questions in the question box. So here you have an appetizer of the full magazine and also of the presentation that we've prepared for you today. As in every edition, we start with relevant insights, then we deep dive into the topic, and finally, we move from theory to practice. And in this case, we will land in concrete actions for the out-of-home, turning diets into menus and connecting nutrition and sustainability. So let's get started. It's easy to think that your guests just look for taste and a nice experience, but actually health and sustainability are also increasingly strong motivations for consumers when dining out. Some of these, it's due to personal interest, but it's also driven by the necessity as we look for ways to feed the rapidly expanding world population with limited resources on Earth. Also, customers are also committed and setting their own targets. And lastly, new regulations are coming fast. For example, about disposable cutlery, food waste, recycled content, packaging. So these push the food service industry to adapt the way in which we do business today. So it may be tempting to put these challenges away for another day, but actually they are intimately connected and both require urgent action. So as food service operators, we all have the responsibility and the opportunity to become part of the solution by addressing these global shifts right now. I will hand over to Rohini.
Thanks, Anna. Before I go on, actually, I would like to encourage a bit of participation from you guys. So let's do a poll. If we can start a first poll, the question is, by 2080, human population is expected to rise from 8 billion to, is it A, 9.6 billion, B, 10 billion, or C, 10.4 billion? Let's give it a few seconds so that everybody gets to answer. Maybe a few more seconds if you want to get your answers in. Great. I think we can stop because many of you have already answered. So in fact, the correct answer is C. It's 10.4 billion. So when it comes to human health problems, we see that it's pressurizing us to change. Data from the World Health Organization tells us that worldwide, 1.9 billion adults are overweight or obese. We see that consumers tend to underestimate the environmental impact of their own eating habits. And that's because probably they don't fully connect the dots and understand the link between diet and sustainability. So a lot of education is needed. On top of that, human population is expected to rise from 8 billion in 2022 to 10.4 billion by 2080. But our planet's resources cannot expand beyond current capabilities to accommodate the needs of everyone who will be living here in that near future. With sustainability and health top of mind for many consumers, recent studies show that both are strong motivators for guests when choosing a restaurant. So let's deep dive into these topics. So some key consumer attitudes are, if you look at the very first circle, 2/3 of EU consumers were open to changing their eating habits for environmental reasons. 44% of global consumers would pay 5% more for plant-based meals. And looking at the third circle on your screen, 80% of global consumers feel plant-based meals improve perception of a menu. Some additional stats to share with you. 57% of consumers in the UK say that sustainability somewhat influences what they choose to eat away from home. And 60% of operators and consumers say that it's everyone's responsibility to take care of our environment. So if we move on to sustainability in food service, we can see that guests now expect our industry to be a part of the solution, with 69% of EU consumers believing restaurants should focus more on sustainability. For example, in the US, 20% say that restaurants could do a lot more to reduce their environmental impact. Also, in the US, more than 1 in 10 food service operators say that sustainability very heavily influences what they serve and purchase. 66% of UK consumers say they'd choose a restaurant for trying to serve sustainable food. And again, looking at the last circle on the screen, 69% of UK consumers are interested in how bars are tackling food waste. This is truly a very relevant issue because over a quarter of the 931 million tons of food waste generated in 2019 came from our food service industry. Meanwhile, human health problems are also pressuring us to change. Data from the World Health Organization tells us that worldwide, 1.9 billion adults are overweight or obese. And obesity nearly tripled between 1975 and 2016. Meanwhile, 462 million adults are underweight. So if you see the big picture, great amount of population suffering, both consequences of poor diet, and at the same time, there's so much food wasted. The first conclusion is that we live in a lack of balance. So Anna, what can we do?
That's a very good question. So, how can we address these challenges as food service operators? By putting health and sustainability on the menu along with great taste, we can check the boxes that guests are looking for, all while helping to solve the generational challenge of feeding billions of people all over the planet. So, globally, people are still eating animal based products for much of their food. In fact, total consumption of animal based food is expected to rise by nearly 80% between 2006 and 2050. But the good news is that many healthy food choices are sustainable, and many sustainable foods can be compatible with a balanced diet too. So, as mentioned at the beginning of the session, this comes back to those two big questions. First, how can we provide enough nutrition nutrition for 10 billion people in the years to come? And second, how can we increase food production without using more land and water or creating more harmful emissions? So as you may imagine, there is no simple answer. However, researchers have found one effective strategy that could help addressing both challenges at once. So this is plant-based diets, of course, together with reduced food waste, adequate caloric intakes, and the usage of more efficient agricultural practices can be part of the solution. So let's take a look at how we define healthy and sustainable diets and where those two areas can overlap. So how should we define healthy diets? As you may imagine, a healthy diet varies depending on a person's age, gender, lifestyle, physical activity, cultural context, dietary habits, etc. According to the World Health Organization, this basically includes a variety of plant-based foods, 5 portions of fruit and veggies a day, limited intake of free sugars, choosing unsaturated fats like olive oil, for example, over saturated fats such as coconut or palm oil, and less than 5 grams of salt per day. If we move to sustainable diets, this is not just about people's health, but it's also focused on the health of the planet that we share. So, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, sustainable diets are protective and respectful of biodiversity and ecosystems, culturally acceptable, accessible, economically fair and affordable, safe and healthy to eat, designed to optimize both natural and human resources, and of course, nutritionally adequate. So, is it possible to check all of those boxes at once? The answer is yes, and actually, following the definitions of the WHO and the FAO, sustainable and healthy diets promote all dimensions of people's health and well-being. They have low environmental pressure, are accessible, affordable, safe, equitable, and culturally acceptable. That also means eating a diverse range of foods such as tubers, whole grains, legumes, fruits and veggies, seeds or nuts, balancing the energy intake according to the energy needs, limiting meat and fish, of course, if eaten, to small quantities, and same with dairy, it should be consumed in moderation, limiting consumption of foods high in fat, sugar, or salt, and drinking water as the preferred beverage. One example is the Planetary Health Diet, which was proposed by the Eat Lancet Commission. According to it, this approach is optimal for preserving human health and the environment. In this case, whole grains, fruits, veggies, nuts, legumes made a greater portion of the diet, but also eggs, fish, dairy, and meat may still be eaten to achieve adequate nutrient intake. So ideally, all food should also be sustainably produced or using regenerative practices within local ecosystems and the limited resources that we have on Earth. So now we are gonna get a bit more specific. So we are gonna take a look at some facts and insights that can help you plan menus that are healthier and more sustainable starting today. But first, let's take a second poll. I would like to know your views on the following question. Let's see now. So what food produce more greenhouse gas emissions? A, poultry, B, beef, or C, rice? We will give you a couple of minutes to answer that one. Don't be afraid, you can answer. We will solve altogether the question right away. Okay, a couple of extra seconds. Okay, we can end the poll. So here we can see that 38% of people thought it was poultry, 46% of people thought it was beef, and 15% said rice. So beef is the correct answer, actually, and now you will see why. As an evidence, and just so you know, diets high in plant protein and low in meat and dairy are associated with lower greenhouse gas emissions, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So now let's compare the environmental pressures created by farming some common ingredients. So you can take a look at the greenhouse gas emissions on the left-hand side, to the land use in the middle, and also the water use of foods you may use in your dishes and in your kitchen on the right-hand side. So as I just mentioned, in general, plant-based foods have less impact on the environment, but of course it depends on every ingredient and it needs to be assessed individually. So for example, if we go back to this beef, poultry, and rice that we just mentioned, per kilogram of food, beef produces 99 kilograms of CO2. It uses 326 square meters of land, and it needs 1,450 liters of water. Then to produce 1 kilo of poultry, we need 9.8 kilo. We have an impact, of 9.87 kilograms of CO2. We use 12 square meters of land, and it's 660 liters of water. And lastly, regarding rice, we have an amount of CO2 of 4.5 kilograms. Then if we move to land use, it's almost 3 square meters, and then if we move to water, it's higher in that case, so it's 2,250 liters of water. So now here we can see that each type of ingredient has strengths and weaknesses when it comes to health and sustainability. So let's take a look at some of them. Beef is high in protein. It provides other important nutrients as well, such as iron or zinc, and it's very low in carbohydrates. However, it has no fiber and contains saturated fatty acids. So it's also an intensive user of land and water, as we've just seen, and produces very high amounts of GHG emissions. If we move on to poultry, it's also high in protein and low in carbohydrates, but it has no fiber. It uses less land and fresh water than cattle and produces less greenhouse gas emissions. If we move to fish, it offers protein and omega-3s, among very relevant nutrients, but wild catch is overexploited. And lastly, in dairy, it can be a good source of protein, calcium, and vitamin D, but it contains as well saturated fats. It uses quite a lot of land and water, and it brings direct methane emissions from cattle. So adding more plant-based food into your menu and balancing the use of animal-derived products could help people achieve more balanced diets while also working toward the world's health and sustainability goals. So to reduce your environmental impact even further, you can try to choose fruits, veggies, cereals, and pulses that are locally sourced or in season, of course, whenever possible, regarding your own context. Also, meat, poultry, fish, and dairy alternatives are increasingly common and also demanded by guests. So finally, as a last point, offering multiple portion sizes is another way to help the planet. So it allows your customers to right size their meal, to not excess calories, and to reduce food waste, which is responsible for around 8% of all greenhouse gas emissions that we have today. I give the floor to Rohini again.
So now it's time to translate these ideas into practice. What should you offer on your menu then? Every category has opportunities to enhance health and sustainability, often without taking anything away from the dining experiences that guests like. In this section, we will also see some of the differences between a few common items prepared with animal-based and plant-based ingredients. In fact, there are many ways to apply these changes in your menu. So for main dishes, you could offer at least one vegetarian or vegan option. You could update popular dishes to let guests choose their own protein, including plant-based options. Shift towards smaller portions of meat and larger or more appealing sides and veggies on the plate. For sides and salads, you could choose local, seasonal, and organic ingredients when possible, and also include nuts and seeds to provide extra plant-based protein and a boost of nutrients. For beverages, offer plant-based alternatives to milk and dairy products like pea, soy, oat, and almond options, and their preferred choices for vegans and those with milk allergies or lactose intolerance. And as for your best sellers, Adapt them into plant-based options. Evaluate your menu regularly and make updates as needed to keep your guests happy and at the same time prevent food being left uneaten.
So if now we focus on nutrition, here you can see some facts from plant-based alternatives versus their meat or dairy analogs. So first we will compare a regular cappuccino, let's say with cow's milk, with a plant-based cappuccino, in this case made with pea milk. So as you can see, calories are more or less the same, and equally it's the protein amount, but we do see a difference with regards to the saturated fatty acids. So here you can see that a regular cappuccino has 2.2 grams of saturated fatty acids, and the plant-based option has a lower amount, and it contains only 0.2 grams of saturated fatty acids. Then with regards to the burger, here you can see that the calories are more or less the same if we compare a beef patty with a vegan patty. In this case, it's made from soy and wheat. It's a combination of two plant proteins. So calories are more or less the same. Salt is more or less the same. Saturated fatty acids are lower in the plant-based option, and protein is also lower in the plant-based option. However, this vegan patty, it's still rich in protein, so we don't need to worry on our protein intake. But I would say that the main difference is regarding fiber. So as you can see, the beef patty doesn't contain any fiber, while the vegan patty contains 4.4 grams of fiber. That's because animal-based proteins or foods don't contain any fiber, while, of course, you know that in the plant-based kingdom, we have fiber and we don't have cholesterol by default. So that's a huge difference between animal-based food and plant-based food. And lastly, we also wanted to reinforce again the message of eating at least 5 servings of fruit and veggies per day to add the right amount of vitamins, minerals, and fiber to our diet. So to close the loop, we would like to mention as well a fact regarding sustainability, and is the following. On average, meat-based meals have 14 times higher environmental impact than vegan meals. Following with that, sustainability matters to over 90% of consumers in the US. So what else can you do to help customers find sustainable options easily? So already back in 2020, 57% of consumers in the European Union wanted sustainability information to be compulsory on food labels. Nowadays, some businesses are giving guests the sustainability data they need to make these informed choices. As you can see on the screen, in the US, it was shown that both high and low climate impact labels on the menus encouraged guests to choose less carbon intensive choices. So it's worth trying. The best way to promote sustainability efforts may be calling them out directly on your menus and on site. While there's no currently a standard way to share this kind of information, several canteens or big chains have already started experimenting with these sustainability or environmental footprint labels on their menus. So on the screen, you can see a few different examples. However, regulations may require more transparency on the menu. So if you are interested in trying this, consider partnering with a third-party organization to make sure that the information that you add on the menus is accurate and, of course, substantiated.
So we've seen how important these issues are, and we know that they matter to your guests too. So how can you communicate the actions you're taking? Try the following tips to promote healthy and sustainable efforts made and attract new customers. So firstly, position plant-based proteins as a valuable option and not as a compromise. Second, draw attention to the healthy, sustainable foods and beverages on your menu using icons to help guests find them. Third, add plant-based protein options to familiar dishes. Number 4, add multiple portion sizes along with a call to help us reduce waste. Fifth, promote a meatless day to encourage people to try something new and attract vegetarian diners. And finally, be creative, be innovative with plant-based beverages. So we've also put together some frequent questions that you could receive. So hopefully they will help answer your customers and be prepared for conversations and discussions that you may have with them.
Let's take the first one. So, are plant-based diets healthy compared to traditional diets? Before answering, I would like to know what is your opinion. So, let's go with the last poll of the session today. What do you think? Are plant-based diets healthy compared to traditional diets? Yes, no, it depends, or you just don't know. You can answer that one as well. Let's give a couple of minutes. Ten more seconds. Go ahead, it's now or never. Okay, I think we can end the poll now. So we received 47% of people think that yes, they are healthy compared to traditional diets. 47%, so equally, people think it depends, and just 7% they don't know. So no problem, because now we will share the answer with you. And actually, you are, I would say, all of you correct, because yes, they can be, but of course it depends. In plant-based, if plant-based diets are appropriately planned, they can of course be healthy, nutritionally adequate, and may even provide health benefits. And actually, some studies suggest that plant-based diets can benefit both health and the environment when compared to a typical Western diet. However, as we've just said, they are not healthy by default. So remember that it's all about balance.
So let's look at another frequently asked question. Will focusing on health and sustainability take away from your ability to deliver a great dining experience? And the answer is that it does not have to. Armed with your knowledge, creativity, and all the flavors of the plant world, you can still deliver incredible tastes and textures that will have your guests asking for more. Next question. Will plant-based options cannibalize my traditional menu? The answer is no. In fact, if anything, the opposite, it may even increase your sales. You can keep offering the dishes your regular customers love while adding others that will draw in new customers and attract large bookings with diverse needs. So, in fact, it can even give you new customers.
Next question. Is organic or locally raised meat just as sustainable as plant-based alternatives? So usually not. It's true that eating meat from nearby farms can reduce greenhouse gases because of course it doesn't have to be transported as far. But for most food products, transportation accounts for less than 10% of the total emissions during the whole supply chain process. So as you may imagine, it's not that relevant. So, to improve sustainability, farms can follow regenerative practices, for example, and buyers can opt for local or organic versions of animal derived products to help reduce their carbon impact. Nevertheless, switching to plant based foods is usually a more effective way of improving sustainability.
Next question. Why do plant based alternatives often cost more than traditional meat and dairy products? At the moment, plant based protein is not produced on a large enough scale to compete with the price of meat, which is exceptionally low and often supported by subsidies. However, the price gap is much smaller for developed categories like milk and butter. As production scales up to meet the growing demand, they could reach price parity with conventional proteins. But remember that we've seen that many guests would pay more for sustainable plant based options in the meantime.
Thank you, Rohini. So that was the last question. We hope that this edition has given you some food for thought and shown you how effective plant-based options can be in meeting both health and sustainability challenges. So thank you for your time and for being part of the solution with us. So now you may be wondering, how can I get this valuable content? So here's the answer. You can visit our website, which is nestleprofessional.com, and you will be able to see all the NutriPro and Planet Pro editions that we have so far. So these are our two iconic magazines. As you may imagine, NutriPro talks about nutrition, and Planet Pro is focused on sustainability topics. So we have all of them, and now you will have the link on the chat box. So you can just go through them because you have lots of topics to choose from. And then on the right hand side, you can see as well that we have in our webpage nutrition and sustainability articles. These are basically based in the content that we have in the NutriPro and Planet Pro editions, but let's say that it's more easy to digest because they are like short articles. So if you want to take a look just a specific topic or just to share it with your community, with spread the word with your colleagues, you can also take a look at these articles. So don't hesitate, and if you use our content, you can also tag us in LinkedIn, for example. It's at Nestle Professional, and you can also use these hashtags that you have on the bottom of the page to make sure that we make it trendy, right? We should make nutrition and sustainability trendy for everyone else. So that was it. We open the Q&A session now, so don't hesitate to type your questions on the question box. We have received some questions about what are our sources of information. So don't worry, because following that link that you had on the chat box, you have the full edition of our magazine. And on the last page, on the very last page, you have a section which is called sources. So everything that we had written in here has a source behind. So you can just take a look at the magazine, which content do you need to look for, and then you can go to the source pages and just check out all that information. But usually it's food databases or our world in data for the sustainability items. Yeah, it depends. We try to use as much global sources as possible so it can be useful for everybody. We have a question from Amer. How much meat does the body need? So Amer, thank you for the question. I find it very interesting because that's, I would say that's a very common thought that people may have. And to be honest, there are no essential foods, right? Or ingredients. So at the end, what we need, what our body needs are nutrients. So that means that we need a certain amount of protein, certain amount of carbohydrates and vitamins and minerals. But we can, let's say, we can provide our body with that nutrients through different foods. So we don't need any meat by default, but it's the same way that we don't need any lettuce or any chickpeas. So at the end, it's all about the nutrients that you can find in the different foods. But you don't need meat by default. The only thing that meat has, let's say, the benefits of meat is that it will provide you with protein, but you can still find protein in many other sources like eggs, for example, milk, poultry, fish, if we talk about animal-based food. But you can also find protein in the plant-based world. Let's say you can have chickpeas, legumes, nuts, seeds. So this will provide you also with protein. So I think it's clear with that one. How can we educate or give our customers more information about this topic? I think that that's precisely what we are doing today, right? Like we try to provide you with the tools and with the knowledge so you can spread the word with your community, in your restaurant, in your cafeteria. Just you need to make sure that we spread the message at the end, because I think that maybe nutrition is not that new, but sustainability it's pretty recent. I think that everybody's talking about sustainability, and maybe there's a lot of misunderstanding in here. But I think that if you use, for example, not only our magazine, of course, I invite you and I encourage you to check our website, because we do have lots of content, and our goal is always to educate people and to provide you with knowledge. But there are lots of sources, very reliable sources like the World Health Organization or the IPCC in terms of sustainability. So there's a lot of information around. It's true that sometimes it may be too much information. So here what we tried is to compile different information so you can have everything like summarized. and with the key take-home messages, I would say. But yeah, for me, it's about spreading the word with everyone else.
And I would say, I mean, I like this question. I like this question because it highlights the fact that we all have a joint responsibility as members of the food service industry to educate, and that's exactly why we're here. And we're very happy that you've joined us to learn more. So I would just echo what Anna said about really encouraging you to use the link, because there's really a wealth of resource there that we have very carefully curated and put together for you for exactly this reason.
Thanks, Rohini. Then Amar, is eating too much hamburger harmful for the body? I think, Amar, that you were the same person that asked about the meat. I'm not sure if you are referring to meat hamburger or plant-based hamburger, but still doesn't matter, because at the end, what we tried, the message that we tried to convey in here was about balance, right? It's a balance. It's switching more to plant-based, but you can also still have some meat within your diet. So let's say that it's not about eating hamburger. Of course, I would not recommend you as a nutritionist to eat hamburgers every day in every meal, but still you can have your hamburgers, and that's perfectly okay within the context of a balanced diet, right? So if you add your veggies into your diet, if you eat 5 fruits and veggies a day, if you drink water, if you sport, if at the end it's all about balance. So I'm not able, of course, to recommend. Of course, my first answer would be no, but it depends on your context. So I really encourage you to try other options rather than having only burgers. You can even try plant-based burgers if you like to, or not only beef burgers or pork burgers in your case. You can try also like fish or chickpea. There are lots of options. So if at the end what you like from a burger is the format, you still have plant-based options, plant-based burgers, and yeah, you have many options to choose. So I would not stick to the burger, but yeah, I hope it helped you.
I think that's it.
Yes.
We don't see any more questions on the chat, so hopefully we've been able to answer everybody's questions. Our colleague has put the link for our LinkedIn, for the Nestle Professional LinkedIn handle, so please feel free to reach out to us, stay connected, and thank you very much for joining.
Yeah, and if you just think of a question later on and now you are not inspired or now you don't have any doubt, just please reach out to us. You can reach out within our LinkedIn pages, np.com. You can send us an email. You can contact Walters and they will convey the message. So yeah, feel free to reach out and we will be happy to support you on that one. So thank you very much.
Thank you both
Bye.
for the nice event. I really enjoyed, and I'm sure that everyone else learned a lot today. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.